Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you from wherever you are in the world. I have with me a very interesting person, Mr. Richard Buffet, who has built a business in the Seychelles called Takamaka Bay, and they distribute all the rum to the whole islands. Very, very interesting, but very interesting character and very interesting business. So, Richard, very good morning to you.
Morning, Claude. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. So tell me something. How exactly did you start Takamaka Bay?
So, actually, just to correct you, we dropped the bay a couple of years ago, so it's now just Takamaka Rum. So the irony is, when we were Takamaka Bay, everyone called us Takamaka, and now that we just Takamaka, everyone seems to call us Takamaka Bay. So I don't know which one to do. Should we go back to the way it was, or should we just stick to Takamaka? So yeah, the Takamaka Rum has been going since 2002. My brother and I, Bernard, we started it together as a family business, and really motivated by our desire to come back to Seychelles. It was our dream to come back here, and we realized that dream in 2002, and started the adventure, which is Takamaka. So it was a great time. Very simple life back then. I was 28 years old. Ben, I was 22. So we were able to survive on sort of bread and rum and that was pretty much it. No kids or responsibilities back then. But it was a very interesting and happy time, and it allowed us to really focus on building the business and hopefully laying the groundwork for the expansion of the business at a later stage. But obviously, when you're living it at that time, you're not really thinking like that. You're just operating on pretty much a week to week basis.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you as well. When you actually started, did you ever think at some point that it could become the big business that it is now? It's quite a sizable business.
Yeah, look, size is relative, right? So I think from a Seychelles perspective, we're a reasonable size, I would say. Not that we judge the success of our company by the size of it at all. But I do think that, when we, for instance, when you're doing the business plans and you're forecasting 5 years down the line, you're obviously trying to hope for the best, and you plan for the best, and you prepare for if things don't go quite the way that you want it to go. But to answer your question, yes and no. I think you always try and make sure your projections and your dreams around the business are grounded in reality. But at the same time, you sometimes let your dreams get away with you, and you go, wow, where could we be in 10 years from now or 20 years from now? And to be honest, we still have that same attitude now. That hasn't changed.
Yeah, I mean, I that's what I feel when I walk through the doors. I'd say as a market leader in your field, what do you think has really kept you at the top of your game and really just keeping your brand known?
It's a good question. Look, I think firstly, if you don't have a passion for what you do, then you're basically never going to be as good as you could potentially be. So I think because both Bernard and I, and now all the people that we work with share that same passion for Takamaka rum and for the industry we're in. We believe here that we will always be the best at what we do. Now, I don't mean that to sound sort of arrogant. I just feel that, at least within the market we operate in and the markets that we are focusing on growing into, we bring something to the table that, our competition doesn't. And that's certainly the case in Seychelles. So again, as I said, I don't mean to come across as arrogant, but we really do believe that if we put our mind to something as a team here, that we will excel at it. And with that belief comes confidence, and with confidence, especially if you're well prepared, comes the ability to roll out a project or a product, or a plan that you've put a lot of work into. So I think it's a combination of the confidence we have, the belief we have in ourselves and our product, and obviously just the usual, bare basics that any good business needs. You need to have proper distribution, you need to have good cash flow, you need to have a good product, you need to be priced properly, etc., etc. So when you couple that together with confidence and belief, then I think you're on a winning recipe. So yeah, I think that's what's kept us at the top.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's great. And the other thing that I actually feel as well is that you've got a fantastic team around you. People are very proud to work for Takamaka, as I've seen them, in many places. What do you think are the ingredients of a great team?
I think there's a few things, to be honest, Claude. I think firstly, you've got to, trust the people that you work with, and they have to trust you. I think that any relationship is like that. You have to have respect for, you have to have respect for your coworkers, and it's obviously a two-way street. So, but besides sort of the standard relationship, any successful relationship has certain ingredients that are apply regardless of what industry you're in. I'm a big believer that you can't put a square peg in a round hole. So it's really a question of you have a role to fill, right? So let's assume it's in marketing or in production. When someone is skilled in production, has a passion for producing something, has the skills to be able to execute the goals that we've set, then that person clearly will thrive in the role that they have. But you take that same person and you put them in a sales role, hypothetically, and they won't thrive. So it's a question of making sure that the right person is in the right role, and then making sure as well that you're able to keep that person interested over the long term, so that the challenges, there are challenges that are always ahead, that the person doesn't get bored, that they're financially rewarded for the work that they put in, that they have a clear direction on, and they can see their life improving as the months and the years go by. So I think that is key to creating a very good team around you. And obviously I'm talking very much from an operational point of view here. We're not talking idealistically. This is really, I believe, at least what we do here at Takamaka. So, and I think making sure that you're not, you don't have sort of people doing nothing. I think that boredom is a terrible thing. So, everyone here works hard. They know what they're doing. They know the job, and because we're a small team, we really have that family feel. You've been here a couple of times. You know what I'm talking about. Sure. Everybody's on a first name basis. Everyone has an open door policy, and we have our fair share of staff parties, which certainly help.
Yeah.
Pretty important. And and there's an old saying which I really like. I like to do business with my friends. I like to become friends with the people I do business with, and I think that's a philosophy that we all share in equal measures at Takamaka.
Yeah, it's quite an amazing business. I can feel it all the time walking through the door, and the people just know what they're there to do, and they do it with passion and flair. And I think that's really lovely. It's fine. What is your view on this COVID that's driving everybody up the wall at the present moment? How are you dealing with it, and how are you adjusting to it?
Yeah, look, I mean, Look, I suppose from a, you can look at it from so many different angles. So I think from a personal perspective, I've really quite enjoyed that lockdown, the lockdown phase that we had in Seychelles. And what I mean by that is, that quality time that you're able to have with your children and your partner, the things that you have suddenly the time to do, which you never had the time to do before. Whether that's picking up the guitar or learning to cook better than you did before, or suddenly, like what we did, we used to play board games as a family, and we just had lots of fun together. And to have that over a period of time, outside of a family holiday where you go away somewhere for a week is really quite rare. So I think as a family anyway, we certainly made the best of the lockdown. Now, obviously in Seychelles, our situation is a little bit different because, we have great weather. People live outside generally. I look at the room you're in now and you've got your doors open and your veranda behind you and the sun is shining. It looks like a much nicer place than I'm sitting in right now. But, being locked down in a place like you're sitting in right now is not such a terrible place to be. But I suppose if we were living in, pick any of the big world cities, which, it's an apartment where you can't go outside, and, maybe it would have been a different situation. So at least from our context in Seychelles, I quite enjoyed the lockdown. From a business perspective, it certainly came with its fair share of stress, especially in the early days when there's unknowns. I think an unknown in a business environment is way worse than bad news that you then can do something about if you have facts.
That's a good way of looking at it, yeah.
So I think as time went on and everybody became a little bit clearer about what we could do and what we couldn't do and really what the state of the economy was, we soon realized that we weren't going to have any tourists in Seychelles for a significant amount of time. That our economy was going to be severely impacted. We have seen a significant devaluation, in the rupee against other major currencies. So these are the facts that we now have, right? And armed with those facts, we then can actually move forward within the new reality that we all face together. So that's what we've done as a business. We've made sure that we've kept our overheads manageable. We're still forging ahead with our developments and things that we're doing to move the business forward, but always keeping an eye on, making sure that we're not letting our overheads run away with us. We're keeping our cash flow on a very, very tight leash. And, we really are, running the business as lean as we possibly can. So we're fortunate that we're even able to run it lean because we still have a market. And, that's where we're very, very fortunate. So, I really feel for those businesses which, if you're a car hire or if you're a hotel or a guest house or a restaurant or something like that, which when your market gets taken away from you, you could be the best business person in the world and it's not going to make any difference, because if you don't have a customer, you don't have anything. So, I really feel for those people, and I hope that at least we're the Seychelles, from a Seychelles context, our own, population support those restaurants, support those hotels, support those businesses that ordinarily relied on tourism. I think that's the only way they're going to survive.
Yeah, sure. What you're saying as we're speaking, it reminds me of something that I heard Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, say a long time ago. He said the bar attender's philosophy, because he sells alcohol, is if it's a really good time, everybody's drinking a lot because they're celebrating. And then if it's a really bad time, then they're drinking a lot because they're commiserating. So how has your business been on the whole? Do you find that the way it is now, people are drinking less, the same, more?
Look, I think people will will consume, their favorite beverage as, in whichever way they see fit. I think if you look at trends, at least during this sort of COVID time, around alcohol sales, it's been pretty standard across the world that home alcohol sales have been pretty good, because people obviously are now, almost every night is a Friday night. That was something I read the other day, and yeah, I mean, if you look at your own experience, you can relate to that, right? So for sure, I think people did make the best of the lockdown situation, and people definitely consume more alcohol during that time. But now that things are getting back to normal, and actually just to sort of touch on that a little bit more. So in our particular case, and in most alcohol brands, home alcohol sales or off-trade sales, as we call it in the industry, is only makes up one aspect of the total sales. In our case, we had duty-free as a major customer. Duty-free outlets around the world. We had restaurants, hotels, bars, which was another major channel that we sold our product into. We had La Plaine Saint Andre, the home of Takamaka rum, which, welcomed between 400 and 500 tourists every day. And obviously that has disappeared. So, while you gain on the one hand, you certainly lose on the other. At least that's our experience. So while we're able to certainly say that business is fine, and we're able to pay our overheads and continue with our developments, like most businesses, we've seen a drop in our sales and our profitability, and that's to be expected. So again, what I was referring to earlier, it's about accepting the reality on the ground, the market that you're actually operating in, and then adjusting your business so that you're able to thrive, and at worst survive, at least within this market for the time being. So like all businesses, we've certainly been affected, but we've always tried and make the best of it.
I think that's incredible, and that really brings me to when I heard about the hand sanitizers, which I thought was incredible. I thought that was excellent. I mean, that's what people need.
Yeah, people certainly need it. There's no doubt, and obviously we were in a position to produce it and to supply it. So it's not a question of us sort of changing the use of the distillery. It's really just a question of using our high strength ethanol produced in that distillery to produce hand sanitizers, one of our products. So for us, it was wonderful that we could actually get involved sort of on the front lines, so to speak, because hand sanitizer is such a critical part of keeping corona at bay, I suppose. So yeah, it's really, really been great for us that we've been able to contribute to the Seychelles community in such an effective and positive way. And the support that we've received from not only just the general man in the street, but from business leaders and politicians who really have made it known that it's impacted Seychelles society in a positive way. And for us, that's just the best thing we ever could have hoped for. So I'm very, very pleased that we've been able to contribute in that way.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? People see you as a good guy, good company, doing good things to help the nation. And this brings me to the point where, if you look back, now I'm thinking back in the 70s, we had some amazing businesses. And I think I'd say we've had some amazing brains, because they didn't have the internet in those days, and they didn't have all the modern things that we take for granted today, and they still managed to do wonders. I mean, where we are today with what we've got, do you think that we may have become too dependent on tourism to the point that we're just so laid back about it, and the tsunami comes, no pun intended, And we go, people are running around like headless chickens thinking, what do we do?
For sure. We have, obviously, as an economy in Seychelles, we're extremely reliant on tourism, and not just tourism, but fisheries and our financial sector as well. So like every country, I suppose we have our pillars of our economy, and I suppose an economy like, again, if we look at our business, if we were just reliant on one income stream, then we would be in big trouble, or two income streams. So any business, and I believe any economy, the more you're able to bring revenue into your country and into your business through multiple different channels, the more secure and the more solid you will be when the times are tough. So in our case, tourism being such an important, a massively important contributor to not only our foreign exchange earnings, but we're tourism is the biggest employer on the island. It's a source of so much training and skill development. There's so many value-added services within the tourism industry down the line. So it's had a huge impact. So you can't. Economies develop as they develop, right? As businesses do. So you can't always, see or foresee an event like this happening. But certainly what I would hope is that with the, the COVID fight that we're all facing together, that the powers that be take a look at our situation now and obviously realize that, it's dangerous to rely so heavily on tourism. So without a doubt, we need to diversify our economy in order to become a lot more self-sufficient. How we do that is obviously up for discussion. It's certainly not going to be easy. But as you alluded to, I think, we have a lot of smart people in Seychelles, and we have for years and years and years. Seychelles people are very industrious, and at least in my experience, nobody knows how to make a plan better than a Seychelles person. I don't know what your experience of that is, Claude. Yeah. And I think, with those qualities, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying that we're not going to have seriously tough times ahead, but I think that we'll learn from this, and I think that we probably will come out the other end a lot stronger and with a much broader base, and I think we'll be a better economy at the end of the day.
So it's time to hit the reset button. What I was thinking, just as we were talking, when it comes to rum and things, from what I've learned from you guys, is it's made out of sugarcane. Okay, so we've got that. But apart from the sugarcane, what I was really getting at back in the 70s, we had cinnamon bark. Yeah. For example, we had patchouli and many other things, cotton, you name it, and those would earn us a lot of money. Now I know we've moved on 40 years, forward, and people's needs, wants, and things are completely different. But the big question is, how we've still got the same place, the same land. I was talking to somebody actually yesterday, and he said something quite interesting. He said, Claude, but that was about the 70s, and I think I must have been I was born in 69, so I was about 5 years old or something. And he said, but you do realize the generation before us planted a lot of those trees and things so that they knew they were never really going to see it, but it was for our benefits as we were growing up. And I thought, I like that. So maybe it's more forward thinking, I suppose.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, we do live in a different time, that's for sure. And think back to the 70s when there was no internet, there was no there was so many things, no cell phones, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, consumers have changed, consumers' needs have changed, and businesses have changed too. So it's difficult to suddenly rewind and go back to the 1970s. I don't think that's obviously what we will be doing. But I mean, I get the sentiment. I think we definitely need to reassess, and I think pressing the reset button, maybe it is an opportunity in some respect to press the reset button. Absolutely.
Do you think it's a mindset as well? I mean, I've had this conversation with friends many times, and I've said I wouldn't mind going into the field and mining cinnamon bark for a day, just for the experience of actually having said I've done it. But do you think these days people are just too proud to do that type of thing? It's like the Englishman sort of saying, well, I'll go and empty the bins or something, get money to buy food,
No, I don't think people are too proud. I think, to be honest, that people do whatever it takes to feed their families and to make sure their life sort of moves ahead. So I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I just think that more and more people are educated these days than was the case in the past. I think with education comes ambitions which are different to perhaps ambitions you had or your grandparents had or my grandparents had or great grandparents. So and of course, as you said, we live in a different world. So I mean, drivers of the economy is not the same as they were 50 years ago. So I think I mean, if I look at again in our situation, we've planted banana trees at home. We're growing our own vegetables now. We're doing those things that perhaps we didn't do before. It's not to be sort of ready for the apocalypse or anything like that. That's certainly not what the motivation is. But I mean, as you said, I think pressing the reset button, looking at what's important, looking at what you can do to become more self-sufficient, be kinder to the environment. If you look at the pollution levels around the world, obviously now that China's reopened, pollution levels have gone up again, specifically in China. But you look at, India, the skyline of Delhi that people hadn't seen for, a decade, clear blue skies. I don't think that people want to go back to living in that smoggy, sort of horrible soup of an existence. I just think, when people have now tasted clean air and quality family life, maybe fundamentally people will have a different view and maybe make their own changes in their own life so that they can have more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember one of the things actually around the time we first met, Richard, is you were telling me about your passion for golf, and I think you're in the Seychelles team, if I remember correctly, saying. And I know that the way someone does one thing is the way they do everything. So, do you think that just as you learned how to play golf at a very early age, that passion has come through to what you do in business as well?
I don't know. Look, everything is relative, Claude. So, sure. I mean, okay golfer, but relative to golfers in the States and in South Africa and Australia, wherever, I'm like, a standard club golfer. So, look, I know the analogy. I suppose the same can be applied to many people that apply. I think it's just a philosophy you have to have in your life, right? If you wouldn't do one thing well, with discipline and with some focus, and you go somewhere else and suddenly your focus and discipline go out the window. Of course you apply the same principles to everything that you do. But to answer your question about golf, I'm certainly enjoy my golf still, and who knows, maybe I'll get back into that national team at some point.
It's a nice pastime as well, isn't it? It's wow. It's a nice thing to do when you're when you're not running business, I suppose. It's a good thing. So thank you very much for your time, Richard. It's been a real pleasure. What would you like to leave the listeners with? What words of wisdom would you like to leave the listeners with?
putting me on the spot here, Claude. Oh, listen, nothing really, to be honest, that we haven't already discussed. I mean, I just suppose, be kind, let's learn from our mistakes so that we don't have to repeat those mistakes. And I think just love each other, as not to be too hippie-ish, but I think if we need a lot more love in this world and a lot more compassion than what we see sometimes. You just have to look at the state of the world right now, in the States with the riots, etc., etc. Sorry about that. To see that there's a lot of people in a lot of pain, and I think it's I'm hoping that's a real turning point in the world, and I hope that as a people we can really just move forward, I really feel like in the last couple of years we've sort of, we haven't, we've gone backwards on climate change. We've gone backwards in international relations. I'm speaking globally, obviously not from a Seychelles.
Yeah.
And I just think we need to move forward again, and that's what I miss, and that's what I hope happens.
Grand. Thank you very much.
And obviously, you're going to start with yourself, right?
Absolutely. That's where the difference starts. But so it's time to hit the pause button and basically be kinder to each other.
Definitely.
So, Brian, let me just stop the recording. Bear with me for 2 seconds. Just stop the recording.